I'm blind, but I've seen castles fall and dragons soar over a battlefield. Blindness isn't the barrier that most people think it is. It's not the ending to immersion or imagination. It's a different starting point. Sure, it can be frustrating sometimes, but it's also our greatest strength because it forces us to approach the game from angles that most GMs don't even consider. Today, I'll be talking about why you should optimize character sheets for your player's visual impairment, how using dungeon buddies at your table will make your games faster, why communication is the most important accessibility tool, and how combining these elements will enhance the gaming experience for everyone. But before we do that, we need to first define what is tabletop accessibility. It means making sure that everyone can fully participate in and enjoy tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, no matter their abilities and how they process information. Because for many blind players, the first challenge starts even before you roll dice, with your character sheet. The character sheet isn't just a tool, it's also a test. Remember when you were a new player? Navigating your sheet was hard because you were still figuring it out. You didn't know what half the stuff meant or how to use it. As you learned the game, you got faster. For sighted players who are seasoned and know the game well, quickly navigating the character sheet is easy because you know what you're looking for, and you can see your entire sheet at a glance. Locating that information takes seconds. But if you're blind, that same sheet becomes a puzzle. It's like being a new player every time, because we're always rediscovering our sheets. Since we can only see small sections of the sheet at a time, scanning for that information takes a lot longer. But here's the hard part: scanning your sheet during combat to find that needed information. What helps is prep. I always review my character sheet before the game, and if I'm running, I ask my players if they need time to review their sheets as well before we get into the session recap. And here's what most GMs miss. There's no one right way to make a character sheet accessible, and oftentimes it takes more than one method to access the same sheet to fully make it accessible. More on that later. My sister and I have the same visual diagnosis, but our functional vision, or the way we see in everyday environments, are completely different. I'm a cane user, she doesn't use a cane. So what works for me at the table might not work for her in the same way. For example, to save on my phone battery, I'll often use Braille dice at the table, where my sister prefers to use Pixel's electronic dice because they talk to her. And sometimes I'll use large print character sheets, but that looks different for me than it does for her. She uses a smaller font. If you take nothing else away from this video, remember that the character sheet needs to fit the individual player using it. Now let's talk about all the ways that character sheets can be made accessible for the blind. The first is large print, with high contrasting colors. Now remember, that looks different for everybody, but in general, you should only put the essential pieces of information on your character sheet. You should also retain an original copy of your character sheet unadapted so that all the information is complete and accurate. Imagine if you blew your whole character sheet up to 72 font, you would be navigating a book, which is ridiculous. Another thing that you might try is using short form when adapting your large print character sheet. A lot of words can be shortened to make them easier to scan and read in the moment. The next method involves using Excel files and D&D Beyond with screen readers. If you do this, make sure you know exactly where on your character sheet the most important information lives and the fastest way to get there. I would recommend using the app because I think it's much more accessible than the web browser for D&D Beyond. I've even recorded my character sheet into the Voice Memos app, 1 track per character per game. This strategy works well if you know you're not going to be leveling up anytime soon. Braille displays can work too, especially if you want to update in real time. I don't have one myself, but I studied it in school, and what they can do is they can take a print file, transcribe it into Braille, and then after the changes are made, they can revert it back to print. That way, the player and the GM have a character sheet that they both can read. Lately, I've been using the Meta Ray-Bans to help me review my character sheet before every game. This is great because it uses the original sheet, so I don't have to make any adaptations first, but if you want a deeper dive on it, let me know, and I'll make a video on it. These tools are great, but there's still the problem of scanning to find exactly what you need in that moment. And that's where the Dungeon Buddy comes in. Dungeon Buddies can give you info you need instantly. The player's job is to only ask for what they need in that moment. Having a digital character sheet or the original sheet for both players to access can help. But what really helps the Dungeon Buddy out is knowing your character, knowing your abilities, and only asking for what you need when you need it, memorizing as much as you can. It's stressful running your sheet, let alone someone else's sheet. We want to make it as easy for the Dungeon Buddy to help us out as possible. And you know what else helps? Tactile reminders. I use coins for luck dice, tiny bottles for potions. Both of these things are on my character sheet, but they're not easily accessible because I can't see them. And that's a problem for me because out of sight is out of mind. With tactile representations, I know exactly what I have and I can check them out at any time. They're always in the forefront of my mind, and I'm not likely to forget them even if I'm fully immersed. I found that the best accessibility comes from using multiple methods to access the character sheet. And with the tactile reminders, Meta Ray-Bans, and Dungeon Buddy, I'm good to go. And that brings us to something that most people take for granted in D&D, how we visualize the world. The hardest part of accessibility is knowing what to say. As a GM, it's tempting to overdescribe or put in information that isn't useful to your players. You want to be immersive, but you want your players to act with confidence. The trick is balance. Don't describe everything, describe what makes sense in that moment. What's underfoot? What's in the air? What sounds are out of place? It's a skill that gets easier the more you improv. And don't worry, if players don't understand, they're going to ask you for clarification. So what's the best thing you can do for a blind player? Ask them what they need and offer assistance. My first game, I had nothing, no fancy tools. I didn't always know what I needed. And that was okay, because together we figured it out. And I am still improving the process to this day. Because honestly, that's what D&D is all about. Collaboration, trust, exploration, and discovery. Accessibility isn't about lowering the bar. It's about opening the door. And the more you can do that for everyone at your table, the better your stories will be. You don't have to see the map to tell a great story. Blindness doesn't limit your imagination, it reshapes it. It expands the way you engage with the world and with the game. So whether you're a player, GM, or someone just looking to make a better table, remember, accessibility isn't extra, it's essential. If you've got tips, tools, and strategies that have helped make your game more inclusive, drop them in the comments. You'll find all my socials in the description. So when I first started this hobby, D&D was my gateway into the tabletop community. I made a video about it, linked right here. Go watch it now and I'll see you over there.